besides rumors, which especially with Valve, people love to talk about, anything like slightly, possibly Valve-y, there's gonna be stories. A Valve employee says the word half? Is that a hint? Could it be happening? No. And we haven't really heard anything concrete about any sort of new Steam Deck device. And it kind of makes sense because even 3 years later, and even with some modern games starting to struggle on that hardware, it's still selling really, really well. It's a really good indie machine. Yes, you can't play the newest games on the top end settings, and in some cases, even on low settings, it's a bit rough, but most everything else is still pretty good. And not just that, but the general world of Linux gaming is also going strong as well. But there is also this developing market of Linux-powered gaming handhelds. You have the Lenovo Legion Go S SteamOS edition, which dropped very recently, but you also have another device. This is still very much a prototype, and the image we have here is actually of another Zotac handheld, but this is the Zotac Gaming Zone, powered by Manjaro. Look, if that's what they're gonna do, sure. There was a post by Philip Mueller of the Manjaro team explaining really what's going on here, why they're doing this, and if you want to read it for yourself, I'll leave it linked down below, but the general gist is effectively building SteamOS off of a Manjaro base. I don't really get the choice of Manjaro, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. It is a Linux-powered gaming handheld, and pretty much everything is gonna be transferable. What this does mean is more Linux handhelds on the market. Not just more individual devices being sold off the Steam Deck, but more individual products available, building up this new sort of device SKU. What this means is more opportunity for people to come and try Linux gaming, and more opportunity for companies to put together some sort of solution to deal with the anti-cheat problem. Because the anti-cheat problem was dealt with on macOS. macOS, you don't get to go around and use some kernel level anti-cheat nonsense. And the reason why macOS gets away with it, you know, there's a lot of Apple people. And if you have a lot of Linux people, I'm sure they'll work something out. But there is still the matter of SteamOS itself. Now, I've done my spiel many times about Bazzite and SteamOS, and I'm not going to repeat the entire thing here. I'm sure you've heard it many times, not just from me, but from other people as well. All I will say is SteamOS isn't going to magically change anything. If you want to use SteamOS on generic hardware, on an NVIDIA system, especially an NVIDIA system, just use Bazzite. It is everything you want, just not Valve branded. Anyway, for the longest time, this is what the SteamOS page looked like. If you went on a search engine, looked up SteamOS, this is where it would send you. Now, this is not the SteamOS that you thought it would be, because this SteamOS is the old SteamOS. As it states here, SteamOS is a public release of our Linux-based operating system. Wow, amazing. The base system draws from Debian 8, codenamed Debian Jessie. Our work built on top of the solid Debian core and optimize it for a living room experience. Most of all, it is an open source Linux platform that leaves you in full control. You can take charge of your system and install new software or content as you want. And this line here, we expect most SteamOS users to get SteamOS pre-installed on a Steam machine. Yes, up until a couple of days ago, the official SteamOS page, 3 years after releasing the Steam Deck, still linked you to SteamOS 2 that was being used on the Steam machines. For anyone who forgot about that one, the Steam machines were Valve's attempt at doing Linux gaming prior to doing the whole Proton thing. So they were pushing for Linux native games. They didn't really get many of them. Nobody bought them. You did get the Steam controller though, which was a positive out of that whole situation. But besides that, it was mostly a failure of an attempt. 3 years after the Steam Deck came out, which vastly better experience. Now, as of a couple of days ago, the page has been updated to reflect modern SteamOS, as it should have been done a couple of years ago. SteamOS is Valve's Linux-based operating system. It features a seamless user experience that's optimized for gaming, while retaining access to the power and flexibility of a PC. SteamOS plays tens of thousands of games on Steam, and we are constantly testing the Steam catalog for SteamOS compatibility. It's an open Linux platform that leaves you in full control, and you can install new software or content as you wish. By default, the Steam client serves as a user interface and provides connectivity to our Steam online services, but you can still access a standard Linux desktop. Users should not consider SteamOS as a replacement for their desktop operating system. Again, users should not consider SteamOS as a replacement for their desktop operating system. Now, there are people taking their Steam Deck and basically using it like a portable PC, which is something that a lot of companies thought would be done with like phones a few years back, and then no one cared because at the time phones were not powerful enough. Nowadays, though, it probably would make sense. It's just software support isn't perfectly there. A lot of web apps, though, so you probably could get around it. Anyway, not the point. There is a lot of people who are saying, oh, I can't wait for SteamOS. I want to install SteamOS. That's when I'm going to finally leave Windows. Users should not consider SteamOS as a replacement for their desktop operating system. I will not say it again. Moving on from that, all of this stuff in the middle here is just general SteamOS stuff you probably have heard before. We talked about the SteamOS gaming compatibility here, which I had a recent video come out on. And then we have the FAQ. Now, this right here is all stuff we already know. Is SteamOS locked into playing only Steam games? No, you can go into desktop mode, you can install whatever you want. It is just a computer. It's a weird computer in a weird shape, but it's just an AMD PC. Is SteamOS open source? SteamOS is an Arch Linux-based Linux distribution, and all of the base operating system components are open source. SteamOS ships... Okay, mostly. There is definitely some proprietary firmware in there, but sure, fair enough. SteamOS ships with our Steam client program, which is proprietary software, in addition to some proprietary third-party drivers. Now, all of this is stuff we've heard before. Question 3 is the one that is very interesting. Does this mean I can install SteamOS on any device? Now, take note of the thing I said earlier. Where is it? Right here. Oh, I'm covering it. Right here. Okay, let's read the question. We expect most SteamOS users to get SteamOS pre-installed on a Steam Deck or device that incorporates SteamOS. This is basically just the line that they had on the Steam Machine page. The only devices officially supported on SteamOS right now are the Steam Deck and the Legion Go S. But there is a second paragraph. We are working on broadening support, and with the recent updates to Steam and SteamOS, compatibility with other AMD-powered PC handhelds has been improved. If you're interested in trying out SteamOS on your device and providing feedback, you can use the SteamOS recovery image and follow the instructions here. And I've seen a lot of people online taking this to mean, oh, we're looking for feedback on SteamOS on generic hardware. Specifically, it is noted, AMD-powered PC handhelds has been improved, and specifically they noted, not considering it as a replacement for your desktop operating system. What they are specifically looking at is AMD-powered PC handhelds. And again, from the installation page, the only devices officially supported on SteamOS right now are the Steam Deck and Legion Go S. We are working on broadening support, and with the recent updates to Steam and SteamOS 3.7, compatibility with other AMD-powered PC handhelds has been improved. If you're interested in trying out SteamOS on your device and providing feedback, then go to installing SteamOS on other devices. This section right here. Currently, expanded support includes devices with AMD hardware and an NVMe drive targeted toward handheld devices. Now, Does this mean that you cannot install it on a PC? Absolutely not. There was a video from LTT a couple of months back where they did exactly that. It is just not directed at that hardware. It is not configured for that hardware. The installer is not set up for that hardware. Nothing in this chain is set up for desktop hardware. If you really want to do it, and you really want to waste your time to get a subpar experience, you can. And you know what? It makes perfect sense why Valve is going down this route. It is the same reason that Apple doesn't let you build a computer. There is the whole Hackintosh thing, but that is absolutely not supported by Apple. When you're building an operating system, you have to support hardware. And when you're just supporting a single device, that being the Steam Deck, very easy. You know exactly what that device is going to have. Maybe it's going to have some different drives and some different SD cards, and that's pretty much it. Maybe some weird devices plugged into it. That's all you need to worry about. Then you introduce a second device, the Legion Go S. It's still AMD powered, it's still mostly the same, but it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to need some tiny tweaks here and there, but it's still pretty easy to support two devices. Then you say, I want to support all AMD powered handheld PCs. This is a lot more hardware, but it's still a fairly controlled set. You can see a list of everything that is available. You know all of the hardware that is contained in this set. Then you say, okay, I want to support arbitrary desktop systems. Now you have a problem, because now you have to deal with countless different hardware configurations, and not just sensible configurations. You might have someone running an AMD GPU that released 12 years ago, next to someone running one that released yesterday, and then everything in between. And then some people aren't going to be running AMD. Some of them are going to be on NVIDIA. Some of them are going to be using Intel. Some of them aren't using modern NVIDIA cards, which are supported pretty well on Wayland. Some are using really old cards, which support is questionable. Some aren't even using gaming cards and are using something like a Quadro. And that is just considering the GPU, let alone all of the other things you might be running in your system that also have to be supported and have to be well supported. And if people have problems with them, you have to deal with those problems because you said it was going to be supported. But if you have something where you specifically constrain it to a certain kind of device, AMD-powered gaming handhelds, you have a lot less problems, and you can reasonably provide good support with a fairly small team. I don't think it is impossible to see a generic hardware release of SteamOS. I just don't really see any reason to do so. Unless we see Valve release some sort of like home theater PC, which has been rumored as well. Unless something like that happens, I just frankly don't really see a reason to do so. Even then, it'd probably be AMD powered, and they'd probably only be looking to support AMD powered PCs then, which again does constrain them, but does start introducing some problems. As I've said many times before, I think you should just go and use Bazite. And honestly, what I think Valve should do, and if anyone from Valve is listening right now, you should just say, if you're looking for SteamOS on generic hardware on a desktop system, go and use Bazite. Literally just provide a link to Bazite on the SteamOS page, and all of these problems are going to go away because the majority of people asking for SteamOS, and I'm sure there are some exceptions, but the majority of people just want to use the thing that is endorsed by Valve. And if Valve endorses Bazite, they'll just use it because that's the only criteria that actually matters. This is technically not a full release of SteamOS. It is still a very experimental, very early version, specifically looking for other device testing, which maybe possibly means that other companies are considering Linux on their devices, even if not like directly selling it themselves. I would not be surprised if Valve has talked to people at various other companies into saying, hey, if we get people to test it, would you say this is officially supported and people could go and install it? And it could be this nice little partnership where we build up this new kind of device class and everyone is happy, everyone makes more money, and people who buy the devices can just play with what they want. Maybe it's just a pipe dream, but it doesn't really seem that far-fetched with a lot of changes being made to support other devices which are not really officially supported, with SteamOS basically just working on a lot of these other devices anyway. So, yeah, let's see what happens with the Linux-powered gaming handheld market. If this is how we get anti-cheat working on Linux, I'll take it, because yeah, you can go and get anti-cheat working, companies can choose to support it, but a lot of them are not choosing to support it. So if something can be done to build a solution that companies actually use, and we never have to worry about games just not working again, that would be absolutely amazing. But what do you think? What are your thoughts down below? Do you have a Linux-powered gaming handheld? Do you have a Windows handheld and maybe try installing Linux on it? Whether that be Bazzite, whether that be SteamOS, whether it be, I don't know, you want to spin something up yourself. I'd love to know. So if you liked the video, go like the video. If you really liked the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to LiberaPay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and as I've been recording this video, it has been getting brighter and brighter outside. Yeah. Anyway, bye.